Welcome to day 2 of the 62nd South England Conference session. This morning we've had reports, the nominating committee's been formed, all sorts of things that are happening, but maybe best to start with a quote from our devotional speaker, Pastor Cavallo, talking about the parable of the two brothers, one who went to the vineyard, the one who didn't, and he said, by doing the right thing, by refraining from doing wrong, you are not necessarily doing the right thing. Okay. This morning, people took that to heart?
A lot of people have an agenda that they really come with, and so they're all wanting the right thing, but very few people, I guess, see the larger perspective. And so it may be what they're seeing as the right thing is the right for them where they are, but whether it's right for the whole, that is the area that needs a lot more consideration.
And I think that was probably one of the good things, and I appreciate Pastor Cavallo, his heart is in that right place, because when things did get animated this morning, and possibly were likely to verge out of control, he did stand up and say, let's have a time of prayer, and I think that was appropriate.
That's right. People were a little confused and frustrated by the process. I guess many of us in our languages are not specific enough, and so when there's a vague proposal, then you hear the rumblings coming from the audience, from the congregation, and I guess there was a little bit of frustration that needed to be calmed in that situation. And so in the end, I guess the right thing was done, the right consideration came through.
And I suppose for those that are not sitting in the hall, that have maybe been following some of the tweets and Facebook postings, you don't necessarily get the full picture. We did spend quite a lot of time this morning on process rather than maybe on substantive discussion. And one of the motions that came to the floor after the nominating committee had been appointed, had been voted, and were about to go and meet, was the suggestion that when a president is elected, and that's is still something for the future at the moment, when that president is elected, he shouldn't necessarily be sitting and advising the nominating committee. Now, that was defeated. The new president, when he is appointed, will be advising the nominating committee, but that was kind of a break from tradition, wasn't it?
It was a break from tradition, and of course the agenda behind that is that some people, and conspiracy theories abound at these times, some people have the feeling that the presidents, the people who are appointed, have got a set agenda and essentially want to put their own impress on things, that they essentially want their own kind of yes men. And I guess there have been occasions that this has happened. And so there is a strand of thought that says, well, let the nominating committee have a free hand. Well, the challenge with that is that the nominating committee equally is not all-knowing. They come to the situation at very short notice. They may have their own biases, and the person who's appointed really does have to form a team of people he really can work with. And so there's a balance between having a president elected who really does call the shots, and the nominating committee is marginalized, but the counter to that is you can get a very naive nominating committee that appoints people without the best information.
Well, having seen the list of names, I think naive is probably not the word for this nominating committee.
Well, every committee that's formed is a coalition of types, and I guess there will be some people who look at the list of names and say, well, this group or that group is probably is underrepresented, or another group's overrepresented. But in the wisdom of crowds, essentially, we trust that the right decision will come through and come out.
Well, that nominating committee is meeting even while we talk. They don't even get to the dining room. They get food brought to them. The same food. They don't get anything better. Doesn't help them in their processes more. But they carry on with their work. Through the morning, we've had the Secretariat report. We've had the Treasury report. We concluded with the Church Growth report. Interestingly, in all three of those reports, and there were strengths and weaknesses, there were debates, there were questions, but the word mission does seem to be quite important. There was a discussion, for instance, in the church, in the Secretariat report, have we got a better record of the reason why some of our members seem to drop away? And maybe there's a need for continued research there.
Yeah, I mean, the reasons that people leave, these are essentially, we have a challenge in recording, and actually recording the reasons and motives that individual people do things. Often people will give a reason of convenience, and so to actually get to the underlying issue on a statistical basis is very, very difficult, and I'm not sure that the church recording mechanism would deliver that. I guess it was unfortunate that the report as a whole did not contain all the information that was available, and maybe if it had done, we would have actually gotten to the issue that was at the heart of people's concern.
And I suppose you've mentioned something, and there was a weakness in that report. For a lot of what's being said on the floor, and for those of us that aren't actually on the floor there, get hold of the report book. It is available online, and you can get all the details, certainly for Treasury, the church growth reports we've had this morning, all of those details are in there. I'm not a great man for statistics, but
then if you go to the Union website and look at the Secretariat page, the statistics that were asked for are actually on that page. So look under Paul Lockham's Secretariat page on the Union site, and you'll get the numbers of dropped and all that. That is published there also.
Yep, that's very true. As I said, I'm not a great man for statistics. I'm standing next to a man who loves statistics. That shows that two victors can be different individual people. But in looking at the statistics this morning, I think what impressed me in Treasury was seeing the number of kind of missions that money has been poured into, whether that's church building and renovation, whether it's youth projects, whether it's church growth, planting, so many things that actually on the ground the church is doing. I think that's what's important.
That's right. It's a frustration, I guess, that when you come to it, you have 15 minutes to present a report. You really are talking about the mission activity of literally, well, in the South England Conference case, thousands of people in individual pursuits, in all kinds of endeavours and expressions, and you really could take time on every single one of them. And again, at the union level, we've tried to expand on that idea, because when you put all the values together, all the endeavours together, there really is a rich cornucopia of activity and goodwill amongst us to serve our society and redeem those who are searching and lost.
And I suppose finally this morning we saw another standing ovation, the second one in 2 days. Yesterday the delegates all stood to give appreciation to Pastor Sam Davis and his 8 years as president. Aris Vonsilidis has served a long time in church growth, and yes, the delegation stood again.
Very good, yeah. And there was a third. There was a third reflection, of course, and that was for Pastor Hulbert, who was the one pastor who died during this session. I guess that was the one I thought was coming through, but there was in a sense, an ovation and a reflection on his service to the church over many years.
And so we were able to acknowledge the living and the dead and everybody. In fact, there are so many people. This session wouldn't actually happen if there weren't so many people dedicated to service, dedicated to mission. We'll bring you another report later today, which hopefully will give you the name of who is going to lead the church in South England over the next 4 years.